Hello and welcome to our Veronica Mars review. I'm Paul,
And I'm Dave.
and this week we are discussing the episode Ruskie Business. This episode originally aired February 22nd, 2005. So let's talk about some video games that released at this time. So we only actually have games that were released on the day of the episode. So February 22nd, there were a couple of pretty big releases here. If you had a PS2, Xbox, or GameCube, you could pick up FIFA Street. I don't know if you're familiar with the Street games.
Like, vaguely remember that. Though I can't remember if it was the particular ones that got licensing from Nintendo to add in characters, or just the case that it was sports games, but on them streets.
Yeah, it was more of like a simpler, like arcadey type of. This was like a soccer game, but they also did. There was a football one and a basketball one, and then there was something similar that was a hockey game. I
Hmm.
remember them being pretty fun. I don't think this one had Nintendo characters in it, but maybe the sequel did.
Hmm.
I think one of the FIFA Street games did, as like a GameCube exclusive, have like Mario and stuff in it. Anyway, moving on. Also on February
Hmm.
22nd, if you had a GameCube, PS2, or Xbox, or a gaming PC, you could pick up MVP Baseball 2005. Which that's a
For
fair
all them
reaction.
baseball.
I remember these.
For all them baseball fans.
Yeah. Also on February 22nd, if you had an Xbox, you could pick up Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Yes. Which supposedly is a decent one, but also the case of only vague recollection of the Street Fighter series.
Yeah, I'm not super big on Street Fighter.
Hmm.
Um, Also on February 22nd, if you had a Game Boy Advance, you could pick up Ace Combat Advance. Are you familiar with the Ace Combat games at all?
Is that the plain one, supposedly?
Yes,
Is that
they're
the plain one, supposedly?
yes. Yes, it's
Hmm.
they're
Because
like good.
because it rings a bell, but it's the case of just remembering the title and maybe knowing of a series down the line, but not specifically on the Game Boy Advance.
Okay, they've released a bunch of games. Apparently they're quite good, but I don't think I've really played any of them that much.
Mm,
And the major release for this particular day, if you had a PS2, you could go to the store and pick up this little game called Gran Turismo 4.
yeah, yeah, most definitely.
Yes, and the Gran Turismo games were great. Moving right along, let us go to the number one film at the box office this weekend, Dave. Any guesses?
Let's see, again, around that time, heading into that year, again in February, whether or not it would have been anything specifically big, I can't immediately recall.
Um,
Mm,
I feel like this particular, like the person who made this movie has been very successful, but I don't think this is one of their big hits.
Interesting, though the too many particular names kind of come to mind to pinpoint anyone specifically. Mm, again, around that time.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't
Mm,
think you're gonna get it, Dave. So I'm just gonna tell you, it's
mm,
"Diary of a Mad Black Woman" by Tyler Perry.
okay. It tracks, but also kind of the case of understandable for February for the particular release, and also kind of the case of eh, understandable for the film, but yeah, I'm not too sure how it would supposedly be going looking at it nowadays.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that particular Tyler Perry film, so
Mm,
I couldn't speak to
mm.
it. Um, so finally, on to the number one song in America, and it is still Let Me Love You" by Mario. Although it won't be for much longer.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let us move into the episode. Okay, so Veronica talks to Logan about his mom's credit card use. Meanwhile, Duncan organizes a 1980s themed dance. While they are talking, Meg walks up and tells her that she is a secret admirer. Meg asks for help. Veronica walks into Mars Investigations, where a woman named Katrina is waiting for Veronica to find her fiancé. Katrina explains the situation. They met online but have lost touch, and she thinks that he is in Neptune. Veronica asks Wallace to track down one of the two boys who possibly texted Meg, and he agrees. The next day, Meg receives some flowers from her secret admirer. Veronica reports back to Katrina that she hasn't found Tom, her fiancé, but Katrina agrees to pay more. Veronica places a fake casting call to pinpoint Tom, which she does. Logan's mom's credit card shows up with another charge at a hotel. Logan and Veronica attempt to enter the room in which his mother is allegedly staying. They are denied access. But Logan decides to stake out the place until the situation is resolved. Veronica visits the flower shop, but the staff member is unhelpful. I love Manny. He's like a guy. He looked like a high school kid. You know, like a high school kid. Oh, Manny's my favorite. Veronica finds out that Tom's dog is named Steve and decides to track the dog down. Veronica contacts local animal hospitals and eventually finds the one with the Catahoula leopard dog named Steve. She pretends to want to breed her dog with Steve. The dog's owner refuses to speak with her. Veronica visits Leo D'Amato, who agrees to call the numbers agrees to give her the numbers that the vet called. Meg goes to a party, but they find nothing in terms of her secret admirer. Logan continues to camp out in the hotel lobby. After Veronica appears, Logan sees someone who thinks is his mom. However, it turns out to be his sister, Trina, with whom Logan has a, let's say, tumultuous relationship. After Trina leaves, Logan breaks down crying in Veronica's arms after realizing that his mother really is gone. On Keith's own insurance fraud case, he is being followed by a group of men in a silver Chevrolet. Keith eventually steals the car, also seeing that it belonged to someone named Yevgeny Sekarenko. I probably pronounced that wrong. Veronica goes back to the flower shop, bringing a sketch artist to aid the owner's memory. Leo goes back to Veronica and mentions three names. Veronica recognizes the third name and is about to call Katrina back with the news before Keith stops her. It turns out that Katrina is actually Yelena Sekarenko, the wife of the criminal who's trying to track down Tom because he testified against her husband and has changed his identity through the witness protection program. Under Keith's instructions, Veronica tells Yelena a fake address. The two wannabe hitmen go to the fake address, the model home of Meg's party, where they're promptly arrested by Keith, Leo, and others. Veronica receives the copy of the sketch of the secret admirer, who turns out to be Duncan, although she doesn't tell Meg this. However, at the dance, Veronica allows Duncan to approach Meg. Veronica goes back to her car and breaks down until Leo appears and invites her back into the dance. Soon, after the two see Logan drunk and acting strange, charging through the room in a dress shirt and briefs, Leo kisses Veronica. Veronica receives several calls from an unknown number, which is actually a payphone that her mom, Leanne, likely used. She goes to the payphone and finds her mom. She tries to get her out of the bar before seeing Lawrence Weedman looking at them. Okay, so what do we think of this episode?
It's definitely big, with a little bit of catch up what it had to do with going back into these couple of episodes, but especially from the cliffhanger from the other episode going into looking into the case of searching up for his mom from there, the two conflicting sort of ways of trying to solve the cases in their own way. Interesting to see. Also, the interesting surprise of seeing the actress that played the sister coming into the series.
Yes, Allison Hannigan plays Trina, the Logan's sister. She isn't going to be in a ton of episodes. She's only in like a handful, I think.
But still, it was a nice, interesting surprise. Also interesting with seeing the cases. I'm not sure with um, this particular series if they've gone into any sort of cases of witness protection, uh, seeing the story sort of pan out as it was with this particular one. It was interesting to sort of see the story, the issues that sort of came up with that. But then, of course, just at the end, that, oh, hey, the mom's an actual character in the show, and all the ramifications that will supposedly happen with that.
Yes, so Veronica has now found her mother. That will lead to some things. Uh, there are
Well,
some.
supposedly expected, like, again, the mother came in, and now there's just two roads to take. The interesting way of making interesting stories about it, or the obvious way, where bad stuff happens.
Yeah, I got bad news for you, Dave.
Oh, yay, bad stuff happens. Why does that?
Okay, so there are a couple of important things to keep in mind from this episode. So we find out that it was Trina who was using Lynn's credit card, which suggests that Lynn is indeed dead, but doesn't necessarily confirm it. Because again, we've yet to find a body.
That
Also,
is true.
we learn Veronica learns that Logan has been physically abused by his father Aaron, which she didn't know prior
Mm.
to that. Veronica finds out Meg's secret admirer is Duncan, which obviously is not great for her.
Yeah, yeah.
And Veronica finds her mother in a bar in Barstow, and Clarence Weedman followed her, so now knows that Veronica has found her mother. And there
Mm.
is something going on with Clarence Weedman and Veronica's mother.
Ugh.
Yes. So I thought this was quite a fun episode. We get like a bunch of stuff kind of happens in this in order to kind of like move the story forward, but it also has like some fun kind of just this like a plots for the main for like just this episode where we have like Veronica and Keith working on two cases that end up intertwining, and yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it's interesting to see.
Yes, and there's a bunch of great 80s music in this episode as well.
Ah, now with that, didn't exactly had too much of the volume on this one for or paid too much attention to that sort of thing from there. Damn.
We get one thing leads to another by the Fix, time after time by Cyndi Lauper, and like a bunch of other songs. So yeah, there's some good stuff in this one. Alrighty, so if there's nothing else about this episode, next week we'll be discussing the episode Betty and Veronica.
Hmm. Hmm. That could go two very different ways, as it said, but
Okay, so in this episode, Veronica is going to investigate the mysterious disappearance of Neptune High's mascot, a parrot named Polly, and eventually goes undercover at Neptune High's rival, Panhut. Meanwhile, in flashbacks, Veronica deals with the aftermath of finding her mother.
interesting.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting. So, until next time, I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.